Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the PullRite SuperGlide OE Series fifth wheel hitch here in our 2025 GMC Sierra 2500. If you own a short bed truck, you know all too well that most of the time your fifth wheel trailer that's out there on the market isn't going to be an easy option to tow around just because there's really not enough room in the bed for that nose to fully turn and get you that 90-degree angle without coming in contact with the cab of the truck. So there's a few ways that you can get around that. One of them being a replacement pin box, which has its own difficulties depending on what kind of bolt pattern you have, what is out there on the market. There's only a couple of rotating pin boxes that are really out there. So the Sidewinder is a huge one that we typically see here at eTrailer. But there's a lot of stipulations that can go with that, and then the hitch that you buy also has to match up and be compatible with it. So this could turn into a big expense that could all be handled just right here at the hitch with a sliding style one, just like what we have here today with our PullRite. So what this does is as it slides back, it's going to start turning the hitch head here. So we're going to get that full 90-degree turn even though we don't have that longer 8-foot bed. So along with this, you will need a wedge kit or a capture plate essentially, and what that's going to do is it's going to link up with your pin box, and it's going to come in and it's filling in this space in the funnel for our hitch head. And that's going to lock our pin box in so that way it can't pivot inside of the jaws right here. It's only going to pivot with our hitch head. So as that slides, it'll automatically start turning for us. And the nice thing about that is now we're not having to get out of our truck anymore. So with a lot of the sliders on the market, Kurt, B&W, just a few to mention, typically what you're going to have to do is once you get to that spot where you need to make that 90-degree turn, you're going to have to get out of your truck, come back to your hitch, pull the lever so that it can go into the maneuvering position. You get back in your truck, pull forward, it'll lock back into place into that maneuvering position. You can make your turn. Then you got to get back out of your truck, come back here, unlatch it again, back your truck towards the camper so it'll push it and lock it back into the tow mode before you can get back into your truck and then take back off. So it's a big hassle for just a simple turn that you're needing to make that you can easily do all in one with this and not have to get out. So with all that added convenience, there are a few more maintenance items that you're going to have to deal with, and there's going to be a larger weight here because we have a lot more components built into our hitch than we would with our typical one. So storage of your hitch, if you're not planning on keeping this in the truck bed permanently, can be a little inconvenient, and especially getting it in and out of the bed can be inconvenient. But with this one being for the Chevy OE puck system, it does make it a little bit nicer that you're dropping right into those pucks, and it's not a hard install when it gets to that point. It's just the sheer weight of it is the biggest fight. Now, like I was saying with those added maintenance things here, so we have weigh tubes that are going to run from front to back here, and that's what our hitch head slides on. These need to be lubricated with a light oil on the top and on the sides, on the inside as well, because if you look down inside of here, there's two wear plates right here and here that are going to run alongside of our weigh tubes, as well as another plate that's running along the whole bottom of our hitch head right here. So this needs to be lubricated properly. They really recommend doing it every single time you tow. For the most part, if you're not really an avid tower, if you're using this once in a while, it's okay to do it just once a month. But the more you do it, the better performance you're going to get out of your hitch. So it's important to keep a good eye on this and making sure it's lubricated. Now the next part is also this bolt right here. So we would have to undo this bolt. On the other side, on the back of the hitch, we have a nut and a lock washer and flat washer. So you'd have to undo that, pull that out, and you lubricate that bolt as well. And then that would go back in and then get torqued down. So I've popped out my clips and now my pins, and there's also lubricating points that we have here on the bottom. So these gears, you can already see they have lubricated up. You'd want to re-lubricate this as well, keep that nice and functioning. We don't want to get any debris or corrosion build up in here, because then that's going to bind up on us and we're going to have a harder time coupling and uncoupling our trailer. As far as capacities go, this one is going to come with a 24,000 pound gross towing weight capacity, so that's that weight of us pulling the trailer. And then it's also going to have a vertical load limit of 6,000 pounds, which is going to be that pin weight. So if you look at the driver's side, of your trailer, right up past the nose, typically right where they store all your propane tanks, there's going to be a sticker that's white on there. It's going to list your tire size, your GVWR, and a few other things. It also should have that pin weight listed as well. So that way you can double check, make sure you're not overloading the hitch or your vehicle as well. So super important that you go and make sure that you're double checking exactly what your vehicle can tow and staying within that. Taking a closer look at our jaws, I have them closed right now so you can see that we have a full 360-degree wrap around here of our kingpin. So that way we don't have to worry about it slipping at all or being too loose to where it could possibly wiggle free. Now another important factor to consider is our hitch head height. So we want our trailer to ride level behind us, and there's a lot of adjustment that you typically are going to be doing for whatever hitch you put in the bed of your truck so that you can make sure that that trailer is riding level with you. Now with this one, there is no adjustment just because of the design of the sliding base here. So unfortunately, this is only an 18 3/8 hitch height. So you won't be able to adjust this, and if you do need to make adjustments with your trailer, then that's where you'd have to start looking into maybe a lift kit or something like that if you need to kind of bring it up, or we'd have to start looking into something else with the suspension to drop it down if it already is sitting too high. In most cases, 18 3/8 is pretty high up, especially when you got a bigger truck like this. These typically sit a bit higher. So in most cases, you're probably gonna be looking at lifting up the ride height on the trailer itself just to make sure that you have it level with this. Along with that too, so when it comes to ride quality, typically there's a lot of dampeners and stuff that are installed in the hitch head itself. This hitch head can tilt front to back and then also side to side. Now it feels like more of the dampeners are in the side to side movement there, so we're gonna help take out some of that side to side play and sway that you might get with your trailer, but as far as chucking goes, there's not as much here as I typically see on most hitches. I'm not going to say that it's not going to do a good job at that because it's probably still going to be forcing it onto this lower portion where they did build the dampeners in, but typically I'd like to see it on the hitch head itself as well because this is pretty loose, just rolling in its holder right here. So one thing, that's honestly the only drawback I really feel about this hitch. I love the convenience of it. Auto sliding, so we don't have to get in and out because that can be a huge hassle. And overall, I mean, as far as construction goes, this is a really nicely built hitch. It's not as much weight as the Demco Auto Slide, which is basically the other version of this here. So really, you're giving up a little bit of ride quality just for the convenience here, but all in all, I think it'd be well worth it. Out of the box, your hitch is going to be about 85% built. There's a couple of things you have to do, basically just installing the feet for your hitch here, and then also there's a couple components to go with that, and then just, in my case, I took the hitch head off just to make it a little bit lighter when I was putting it on. But once you get past that, it's really just maintenance. Out of the box, super simple to install, just really somewhat heavy. So if you have a couple buddies, maybe invite them over, have them help you get this up into place, and then they can have you, or help have you shift it around so you get everything lined up with your puck system, get those legs in correctly, and be good to go. But with all that said, if this is something where you just don't have the buddies to come and help you out, you don't have the time, your camping trip's coming up and you just don't really have the free time to get it in here, then please feel free to use our dealer locator and you can enter in your zip code and find a shop near you to get it installed for you. Now, if you are wanting to do this yourself, stick around and I'll walk you through the process. To start our install, we are going to get our hitch up into the bed. I've already taken out the hitch head, but this is essentially what you're going to be seeing here. The hitch head just has 2 pins holding it in place. Super easy to pop out and just take a couple pounds off of here. Make it a little bit lighter to get it up in your bed because you're definitely going to want some extra hands because this is a pretty heavy hitch here. But aside from that, we can start on getting ourselves prepped here. With it up in place and make sure that you have it facing the correct way. You should see your PullRite sticker facing out towards the tailgate. The cab side of this does not have a sticker, but it does have a jam nut and a little plate back here that you can see where the assembly is going to butt up to, so you know that side is your cab side here. Now, in your bag, there's going to be these brass washers or spacers here. On one side, it's going to have these 4 prongs that are sticking out, and they're also going to match up to the cab side on our puck system here. So we'll drop these right into place. And now, a lot of the time, we would put our legs onto our assembly first and then drop it into place, but in this case, with how heavy this is, it's a lot easier to actually see what you're doing. So we're going to lift this up with an extra set of hands, and we're going to place it over each one of our pucks while we can still see it, and then we'll drop in our legs to make it a whole lot easier of an install. Now with these are specific to which side. So the ones I'm holding right now are going to go on our passenger side because there's no spacer on it. On the driver's side, it's got big spacers on it. And the other thing to note here is the size of the roll pin that they have running through it. So the ones where it's smaller are going to go on our cab side. The larger ones are going to go over on our tailgate side. So I'm going to get this pulled up into place now, and we can start assembling it. One more thing to do, especially if you're starting to get your legs in and are struggling, if you take a 1/2-inch socket wrench, you can loosen these bolts on the spacers for the passenger side, and that's going to give you a little bit more wiggle room to work with and make it easier to install those legs. Now with the extra set of hands, I'm going to line that up with my pucks, and if you have the back lined up right, it should pop in with that little bronze spacer that we already installed. So it looks like, there we go, all good here. Now we can drop in our legs, and like I said, just remember, the bigger roll pin is going to be in the front, and you might have to kind of just play with it a bit too. Even with it loosened up, the pucks don't always want to cooperate as well. Yeah, I might have to slide this over just a bit. I might need to loosen this up a little bit more too. You got both sides in on yours. All right, my back one was lined up perfectly. This one is still just slightly off. I can see down into the hole and see I'm just a little crooked here. So I'm going to readjust and we'll get this in place. Now that we have it in place and each one of our legs is in, I'm going to retighten those 2 bolts on each of our spacers on the passenger side, and then we can start playing around with the castle nut here and figuring out what the right tension is going to be, because we want this to be able to slide and block into place. We don't want a bunch of loose wiggle room there, but we also don't want it so tight that we can't actually get it to turn, and then we're sitting there binding up the whole time. These bolts are also going to get torqued down, but it's a super low setting, so you may have honestly over-torqued them anyway, just tightening them back down. All right, those are all good. Once you find that right amount of tension there, the next thing we're going to do is on your post here, there is a hole in it, so that's why you're using a castle nut. And once we have that figured out, we're going to slide a pin through. So you may have to also kind of either go back a little bit or forward a little bit if you need some more room. Just slide in your cotter pin. This one's in line with the handle, so we would do that, and then you can take a pair of pliers and just pinch one of the pieces over and then the other one to the other side, and that'll help lock that in place. So that way you don't have to worry about that pin coming out. And you'll just do that for each one of these. And then once you have it all set, we would come back with our pin and clip. And then pop this into place with our handles. And that'll keep our handles from being able to come out, and no way for our hitch to disconnect from our puck system. Next, we're going to adjust our jam nut and our threaded stop assembly here, so that way our rolling assembly can actually function, because right now, right out of the box, this wants to hit that and then stop, and we can't turn anymore. So in the instructions, they want you to have this so that it's tight enough that it's hard to do by hand, so that they say just barely able to turn by hand. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pop that loose with a 15/16 wrench. So that jam nut there. Get that loose. And since I'm tight, I'm going to go clockwise, because I want this to thread more into our assembly over here. So I'm going to do one face at a time and see where that gets us. So still can't go. Go one more. Starting to. There we go. So that's where we can actually get it in. So I'm going to hold that there, and we'll reinstall that jam nut. And you might even need to grab a pair of channel locks to really hold down on that. Let's see if I didn't go too far. Yeah, it's a little bit looser. I'm going to grab some channel locks. I'm going to hold on to this portion and get it a little bit tighter. I feel like this is a little bit too much play with our hitch here. So once I get that done, then we can go ahead and reinstall that hitch head on here. So here is our fifth wheel hitch head, just like so. I've got it flipped over so that way we can attach our handle here. Now with this, I want it to sit just like that. So we're going to be orienting it with our handle facing backwards. And this is going to slide in. Now we got a couple things we got to do here. We're going to pop this pin out. We're going to take our spring, and our spring is going to need to go inside of our handle, and then the spring's going to clip onto this pin right here, and so is our handle. So a little bit of a challenge here, getting all this lined up perfectly. Pull it a little bit extra. I think the best way is going to be to just kind of pull up on the spring a bit, and you got to hopefully have that stay for you, that little hook there. We're going to get that to sit inside of our handle, and then try and hook that on first. There we go. Now we can push our handle in a little bit more. Get that over that little nub. There we go. And then we can replace our pin to hold our whole assembly in place. Now on the bottom side here, this is going to be one of our lubrication points. You can see all these gears right here, and you can see the lube that's already in place here. So when it comes to maintenance, this is going to be one of our points, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on as well. Now I'll drop my hitch into place. We'll take the two pins that we removed originally, pop those in, and then there's going to be another little clip that's going to seal that into place. With your hitch head installed, you are pretty much all done, but there are still a few things that you need to do and to check. So the first thing, lubricate your hitch. There's a bunch of different instructions. There's some in the instruction packet. There's also some literally on a sticker on the front of the hitch. Just to remind you, they do want to keep this nice and lubricated because this is something that's going to be sliding back and forth on two rails. So you don't want to have a bind up when you're trying to make a turn and then have something go wrong with your trailer. The other thing here is this is going to require a special capture plate on the pin box. Now, depending on the pin box you have, you might have to get a different capture plate than just the norm. So you'll definitely want to go and double check what kind of pin box you have. Make sure that you're getting the correct capture plate to go on there, because essentially this is going to be the same as like a rotating pin box. It's going to have a wedge that's going to come up into here in the funnel of our hitch. It's going to lock it into place, because with our hitch head being able to turn as it slides back, we don't want to have a second pivot point with our kingpin inside of the jaws here. It has to be locked into place so that the only pivot point is just the actual head pivoting here, so that way the trailer's tracking straight behind us. So with all that said, that's going to do it for the installation here. And once you get all those little maintenance tips out of the way, the lubrication and making sure that you have the correct capture plate for this to hook up to your trailer, you'll be all ready to tow.